Awesome, awesome, awesome community. What's going on, Healthiest family? This is episode 14, Menopause Health, Coach's Corner with your guy, nutritional wellness guy, Chef D, and the amazing, the wonderful Mrs. Holder. I appreciate you for being here. This is something that you and I spoke about a little while ago, and we just knew we had to do this. We just had to get space. And anytime I'm connecting with someone coming on the coach's corner, I just want to know their why. What is their connection to the topic? And both we had goosebumps. I was like, oh, God is in this.
Absolutely.
I was like, I know this is going to be an evergreen conversation just because we're not just talking about what to eat and making sure you worked out. And, when it comes to menopause, making sure you do, we're going a little deeper about some of the spiritual warfare. We're talking about bringing the family in as support, dad,
Mhm.
kids. Some women may be doing it alone, but also just getting a little real. The taboo, we want to remove that because I can't remember as a young man, my mom or aunts or grandmothers ever pulling me to the side and say, hey, let's talk about menopause. I don't
Right.
remember that conversation. I really don't. But it's necessary because the
It
body
is.
is changing and it's a beautiful transformation. But if we don't have any understanding behind it, it'll seem like a curse. It'll seem like taboo. It'll seem like, oh, let's get out of her way. Or, not that. Instead of getting out of her way, I want you on this platform so now we know how to support her. She
Thank
can
you.
support her, because sometimes she needs to support herself. So I believe that this conversation is going to unpack a little bit of the menopause journey and also everyone's role in
Mhm.
this transformation, this perfect transformation, because God doesn't make mistakes, this
Right.
perfect transformation, and how we all can be a support in this amazing time in a woman's menopausal journey. So, first and foremost, I know you.
Thank
I'm a student of you. You have a pod. You and your husband have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Flow therapy.
Flow therapy. And this is when you get to talk a little deeper about the things of the spirit and things of the heart and just really it's a life. I feel like it's a life podcast. So
Mhm.
we're now talking about menopause. And again, community, before we end this call, I'm going to share a little. This is more than what you see. She does a lot. Podcast is just one thing. I mean, counseling, advocating, just being that person in people's gap, and just interceding on so many people's behalf when it comes to business, when it comes to fashion, when it comes to media, when it comes to all of these facets. You have a lot of hats. So I thank you for taking the time to share about this something that's really personal and near and dear to you. So what's the connection with menopause? Like why is that something you feel you have a connection to, not just as going through, but just helping other women and the families supporting that women to go through it as well?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm super excited to be able to share this because I do feel like having gone through this journey and still in it, I'm able to shed light and help somebody else because you mentioned earlier you didn't hear the conversations. I didn't hear the conversations. All I heard was about hot flashes. That was it. And it's so much more than that. It's so much bigger than that. And I want to be able to share and let women know and the families around that it's a real thing and it's more than what you could initially wrap your head around if you are not prepared, if you have not had any information, any preparation at all. It's a lot. And so I really honestly want to let somebody know, yes, you are in your right mind.
Okay.
You are. It may not feel like it, but you are. And this is happening and it's part of the process, but you have to be more informed.
Did you ever feel like it caught you off guard, the whole journey in itself? And did you ever feel like you weren't in your right mind? Like, tell me,
Absolutely.
how did you get from there to where you are now? How was that?
When it first started, it
Mhm.
was something that like I said, the only conversation I knew was the hot flashes. That's what I knew.
Mm,
Um, my aunt early on I heard her when I was growing up saying, I'm having my own private summer. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't now I know what that means very, very well. But all I heard was that, and that was the only phrase. And then later on, I learned that it was hot flashes, but I never heard the gist of it. And actually, what happens is, and when I started feeling like, wait a minute, something's not right, because I used to be able to have a conversation with someone. If we were in a room, if there were a lot of people, 50 people, I could go around and say their names
Mhm.
first and last. But now
Wow.
and later on, like some things I forget, and I'm like, I know I should forget. Like I just walked down the stairs. I was coming down here for a purpose. I don't remember what the purpose was. So I have to start to walk back up the stairs just to remember what it was. And when that happens one time, you're like, "Mm, it's a fluke." But when it happens on a regular basis and it becomes to where it's brain fog, then that's a real thing.
Mm.
And it's uncomfortable, and that's when I started thinking, am I losing it? Because i I retain information, but now all of a sudden I cannot. And then I get frustrated because I'm looking at an object and trying to think of what the name of the object is when I know what it is, but right now I can't get the words out. They won't come together.
Wow. And do you feel it could be dangerous, because sometimes conditions are thrown out there. So as we get, one of the buzzwords right now is dementia. So it's almost could be scary because you're like, okay, am I going through dementia symptoms when in fact it may not even, it's not even close to that. It's brain
Mhm,
fog, is menopausal, which again are, the estrogen levels and the cortisol levels and the hormonal
mhm.
imbalance, your adrenal glands. So have you ever heard people getting that mixed up, or have you ever got mixed up saying, man, I hope this is not dementia. I hope this is not something else. And as you're where
Mhm.
you are now, you're like, no, 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 this is menopausal. This is not that.
When it first started, I didn't know what it was. I really didn't, because there were so many different things that started at once. So I guess that's what made me think, you know what, I should go check this out. That's what made me go to the doctor, because it wasn't just the brain fog, it was night sweats. Like I'm not a person, I really don't sweat. So when I wake up and all of a sudden everything I'm dripping, like in the whole bed is wet because I've been sweating, that to me was alarming, to say the least. It really made me wonder, like, what is this? Because I went to bed, I wasn't even hot, and now all of a sudden I'm soaking wet. And when this started happening, that made me think I better go to the doctor. Then it was the brain fog. Then it was little things. Then all of a sudden my body would heat up, and I'm like, I'm sitting here and I can feel like my back literally on fire, and it just rises up. It's like a slow burn, and then it gets there and you're thinking, oh my goodness, and you start fanning, and literally my husband can feel the heat coming off of me. And that's crazy. That's what makes you start to think. And I've had a lot of conversations with friends that it makes them think, you know what, I'm losing it, something is going on, this is terribly wrong. But that's when you go to the doctor, because I didn't think dementia, but I knew something was not right.
Okay.
And but I've had friends that really it made them think they were losing their minds.
Mm,
And because it is something you can, when you are trying to articulate something and you know what you're trying to say, but it won't come together.
wow.
And the first time that happened to me, my husband was going to the store. We were all like in the kitchen. He was going to the store and he said, "Do you want me to bring something back?" And I don't know why, but in my mind, I just got so frustrated. I was like, yeah, I do want something. And I'm trying to think of what I wanted, and I couldn't articulate it. And it was dishwashing liquid. So I just picked up the bottle and started shaking it because the words wouldn't come. And I knew what the word was.
Yeah.
That's what makes you start thinking, am I losing it? And it may seem so extreme, but that it was not a small thing to me, because I'm like, why can I not? And
Mm.
I'm getting mad because I couldn't articulate it.
Does that, and thank you for sharing this. This is really personal. So I thank you for being vulnerable and just sharing that. I call it a testimony because you're on the other side of it, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful, even though you're going through it. I thank you for sharing what it was like. Now you mentioned your husband. Now, are there misconceptions as a guy? Sometimes we look at it like, oh, you know, growing up, you're like, oh, she just be on her period, which is a very condescending, disrespectful thing to say, because that's just
Mhm.
what you're saying is you're attaching an action to a
Yeah.
symptom or to a condition, which is just not fair. Do you feel
Mhm.
that happens when it comes to the menopause, things that happen that you are frustrated and you are, not as you're frustrated? What is the
Mhm.
role of your husband, or what do you feel the role we could do a little better in? And how does that work? Tell me about that journey with your partner.
You you know, it for me, it had to come to me sitting down and having a conversation with
Okay,
my husband when I felt like I was in my right mind.
okay.
Because if I was in the heat of it, I couldn't articulate it. But
Wow.
when I felt like all of a sudden when it kept happening on a regular basis, then I said, "You know what? I need to have a conversation because I don't know what this is. I can't explain it to you because I don't know."
Mm,
I all of these things that I'm feeling and all that I'm going through, I can't really explain it. And so when it was a good time, I told him, I sat down and I said, I don't know what this is. I have mood swings and they can be quick. I mean, like swift, and they will change. And I'm the type of person I've always been. I don't like to speak when I'm angry. But with that, I had no filter. Now, I never cursed in my life, but with that, when it started, I was using some words that I I could not imagine using because again, it was anger and it was probably mostly out of frustration.
mm,
But when I had the conversation, I was trying to explain it as best I could. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm having these mood swings, but I can tell you what I think is helpful for me. And for
yes.
me, it was like, you know what? If I can get low to the ground and just sit down, if we could, you pull me to the ground and say, let's sit down, let's calm down, let's take a pause, I will calm down, and it helps.
Wow.
And I don't know what it is for me, but like even when I go to my aunt's house, sometimes she'll say, "Sit on the sofa." No, I want to sit on the floor. We
Okay.
can have a conversation. I'm talking to everybody around me, but that's just for me. That's
Wow.
grounding,
You grounding.
bringing it down. And so, um, in one instant, I was having a moment, and he just grabbed me by the hand, pulled me to the floor, and we sat down and came right down. It caught me by surprise because I didn't expect him to do it, but it was so helpful that I had had the conversation
Wow.
beforehand.
Can you share some of that wisdom with us? Like, what does that conversation look like? And what advice would you give to women who are about to have, they haven't had that conversation yet? What you already said, wait till you're in a more calmer space. What other
Mhm.
advice would you give so you can paint that picture for them and for us?
I it's helpful to when you figure out, you know what, I need to go to the doctor. It's good to have that information to take back too. But
Uh,
even if you don't have that information, it's still good to say, I feel like this is what's going on. I'm having these symptoms. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. But if we can talk about it and talk through it, then maybe that'll be helpful and try to have a conversation because when you are in the midst of it, or I can speak for me, when I'm in the midst of it, I cannot have a conversation
wow.
because I can't talk. And that is strange. And when you cannot articulate, when you are that type of person who usually can,
Yeah.
when you're not able to do it, it catches you by surprise. And again, it makes you feel like you're losing it. That in turn makes you get frustrated. And what's coming out to everyone else is the frustration.
Wow.
And so that's why I tried to, as best I could, explain it, hoping that that would make sense. And even though I couldn't say what it was and give all the information that might be helpful, I gave enough to let them know when I was in the heat of it, this is what happened. And I had to do the same thing with my kids.
I was gonna ask that. I know you said everyone. So is that wow, okay. And how was that? Like, what was that like?
It was a real conversation because, like I was saying earlier, I am not like snappy with my kids. I and again, when I don't want to talk, I don't. I'm type like I'm not gonna say anything. I rather hold it in. I don't really want to say something that I can't take back. So I'm quiet. But with them, great example. We were going to the store. And so my husband said, take the kids with you, so they can help you with the groceries. I knew already I did not want to take the kids with me
Uh,
because I did not want to deal with that, but I took them anyway. But I know how they can be. So before we can walk in the door, they're like passing licks, going back and forth. And I promise you, I got to the door, I turned the cart around and came back, and they were looking like, what is she getting ready to do? We went back to the car. I didn't say a word, drove back to the house, go upstairs. And they were like, "What?" He just and he called as soon as they got upstairs and said, "Did you just send the kids back?" I said, "Yeah, I can't do it.
oh,
No, I need." And so with that, it led to the next step, which was I would be sometimes they would say something and I would kind of like so to
mm,
the quick, and they would be looking at me like, "Who is that?"
mm,
And when they did that, honestly, it took me back to when I was a teenager
wow.
because my mom is the same way. Never had I'm 57 and she's never no, actually I'm 58. Never had a
You could
bad
have said
word to
51
say
and
to
we
me.
would have still believed you. So it's all good.
She 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 never had a bad word to say to me,
Mm,
but one day we were driving and my dad had gone out of town. And I said to her, I said, I was supposed to go spend the night with my cousins. I said, I can stay home. I I I don't have to go. And she was like, she turned around and she just flipped and she was like, I didn't ask you to stay home. I don't need you. No. And I was, what?
wow.
Who and my eyes filled with water because she never spoke to me like this. And then when they filled with what you crying for? Then I got filled with eyes for crying. I was
Uh,
and so I actually saw that same look in my kids' eyes, and
mm,
they were kind of like, and that's what made me have the conversation with them. And I had to tell them, same conversation I did with dad. I can't explain it. I don't understand it, but this is what it is. And then Taylor started texting me every morning. You
wow.
doing okay? How are you? And it helped. It
Wow.
helped.
Wow. And let me tell you, for community, Taylor is my executive assistant, and this is her baby. And to this day, Taylor texts me every morning with the Bible verse. Taylor texts me, hey, what we got going on for the day. And
That's my
from
girl.
time to time, I get heightened. I get heightened because I have so much on the plate. And Taylor senses that. And that's a product of you. She senses that. And before we start talking about what's on the agenda, who I need to call, where I got to be, she starts with a word of prayer and we just breathe. And then I'm
Wow.
like, good to go. And she
Yep.
discerns that. She discerns that. So thank you for that. I want to say thank you for
See,
raising such an
yeah.
amazing human being
Oh,
who we're
thank
all
you.
benefiting from. Everyone on the team is benefiting from her. Other guests who she's reaching out to kind of get this.
Oh,
Everyone who comes in
that's
contact
beautiful.
with Taylor, they say she's just a beautiful soul. Taylor's not
Absolutely.
yelling. Taylor's not doing none of that stuff. Taylor is very calculated and she's very sweet. And like I can see that sensitive side because Taylor is love. So if Taylor's not
Yeah.
getting love back, she's like, I don't understand because all I'm
Yep.
giving is positivity. All I'm
Yep.
giving is love. So wait, why are you not giving it back to me? So I can only imagine you saying, go upstairs, and they're like, what? Like, I want
She was like, what?
exactly. So, wow. All right. So in that same sense, and I think this is just one of those amazing things. Do you mind? Because I'm still a little like I got the schooling behind it, but I don't have the wisdom and the real life approach to it.
Mhm.
Perimenopause and menopause. What's the difference? Like, what is all of that? What's the difference? And how can
Well, it starts out when when you start missing your cycle, that is a clue.
Oh,
When you start missing your cycle, that is something is up because that's the first thing. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time because
'cause you
you're
wanna
like, I
get
don't have
rid
to
of that
deal with
child
this
'cause
anymore. Yeah, I don't have to deal with this anymore. I'm not going to miss this at all. But with that, then comes other things. And it's interesting because I do have a girlfriend who has gone through perimenopause, which is the early stage. Then you get into menopause, which is where I'm at now. And it's not the same timing for everybody. It's
okay,
been over 10 years for me, but she has never had hot flashes.
okay,
I don't she's never she knows she's in the midst of it, but
okay.
she's never had the symptoms that I had. So perimenopause, great a great indication is you have missed your cycle and it's been for a while. If it's been more than 2 months and you are not pregnant, then that is the
A
start
good
of
indicator.
perimenopause.
And at that point, you feel like that's when you talk to your primary provider, start
Absolutely.
having that conversation. Are there medications that people take, or like what's some things? All we know is about Midol. I don't know about any other stuff. I have naturopath and holistic practitioners who, they
Mhm.
deal with the roots and the herbs, but we're healthy-ish. So it's a little bit of that,
Right.
a little bit of this. But what are some things that have helped you or that you heard have helped others?
I know that there are hormones that you can take. There are treatments that can be taken. I have not because I just I really like the holistic approach. I prefer being doing that. I heard edamame is one thing that
Hmm.
helps to lessen the hot flashes. So I've tried to do different things like that. I haven't taken any types of and what is it, black cohosh tea? I
Okay.
heard that helps. And so there's a couple of things that I've heard foods and drinks that are helpful, but then there are things like sugar that could trigger it. So I for me, I started 1 January, we started the Daniel fast.
Okay.
And that was no sugar, no meat, and no sweets. And so with that, I stopped drinking sugar. I stopped eating sugar
Okay.
for 30 days. And then I felt like, you know what, this is really helpful.
Was it?
And then I really tried to do away with the sugar for a little while. So I've started drinking zero sugar drinks and I actually like the taste of it.
Okay.
So I've been trying to cut down and even coffee and tea, I try to drink like without, I never drank black coffee until now.
Okay.
Now I like it. It has to be flavored, but I still like it. And so things like that have been helpful. Um, but there, when you start actually getting, you gain the weight it
Okay.
comes from nowhere. That's one thing that is just so frustrating and you can't seem to get rid of it because with me, I could gain it, but then I could quickly get rid of it.
And that's
Not now.
a sign of menopause, yeah, because that the storage is there. It's in the lipid area,
Yeah.
stubborn areas, and it has to do with estrogen. It has to do with progesterone, and it has to. It's all of that, and it's a
Mhm.
science behind it. We talked about it this week in some of the top three foods and some of the. But you're right, and can you speak to that? Like, I mean, just to for women, just to say it's you're okay, because I know sometimes that I can't imagine that feeling of you're trying to eat right, you're trying to stay
Mhm.
active. However, your body, because when the body keeps fat on it, believe it or
Mhm.
not, it's a protective state. It's storing
Yep.
up for something and it doesn't sometimes know what it's storing from or storing for, or there's missignaling
Mhm.
or misfiring. It has nothing to do with your willpower. It has nothing to do how
No.
broke you are or how lack of discipline. It literally is the body just doing what it's doing, and you might have to just let it do what it do. Can you speak to what
Mhm.
that's like?
That is what I had to do. I really had to just try because as much as I tried, it didn't work up until I know a year and a half ago when I decided to extend the no sugar,
Okay.
and then doing black coffee. And and I did notice I couldn't tell by the pounds, but I could tell by the inches.
Yes.
And I was like, this is working.
Yeah.
It's just trying to maintain
Mm.
that. But I had people at work, like one of the professors at work, she said, "You have to tell me exactly what you did."
Wow.
Exactly. And so I wrote it down. I was like, this is it. This is what I did. This is what worked for me. but then it's staying on top of that discipline, you know? And when you're dealing with mood swings and it feels like depression or whatever, then you kind of go
Yeah.
up and down.
And it's important, and this is where I come in with the nutrition part. Unfortunately, during this stage, you can't eat what you used to eat. You can't eat as late as you used to eat. You can't eat as much fried food as you used to do because your
Mhm,
body is changing and it's counting on you to support it
mhm.
during this change, not punish it. So I saw you
Yeah.
put your fingers. What was that? Tell me what that was.
That that when you said you cannot eat like you used to, like, I try to make it a point, for us to eat before 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
And another thing that I was doing that was helpful was intermittent fasting.
Yes.
So, I would eat before 8 o'clock, but then I would also not eat until 10.
Mm.
So, between those hours and that with the no sugar, with no fried foods and trying to eat healthy. Like I love salad, so that's not hard for me.
Okay.
Even if I had to give up meat, that's not hard for me, but it is trying to discipline myself now trying to get back into the point of like no sugar because I love some chunky monkey ice cream. So
Hey.
trying to get past that,
Okay.
trying to not do that and
Okay.
get back to the healthy eating. But it is possible
Yes.
once you start doing all those things together.
Yes. Especially
Yeah.
moderation. And if you just and you said it
Mhm.
earlier, this is the conversations to have with your family dynamic. If you have a family dynamic, I know some women are doing it alone and they're doing it just with
Mhm.
their kids, or they're doing it
Mhm.
by themselves, or they may be
Yeah.
taking care of a parent or a loved one. Um, but the it sounds like another key to the communication is sharing that diet part. Hey, listen, you all, let's keep some things in the house and some things let's not keep in the house. Because let's be
Right.
honest, no matter how much I'm a nutritionist, and if there is something sweet around, I make it my business not to keep things in the house because
Yeah.
it is these, let's be honest, these companies do a great job marketing. There's a lot of
Mm.
chemicals in these ultra processed foods that
Yes.
break your willpower. It will hack your willpower. It will hack your
Mm.
discipline because companies have spent millions of dollars to create the right
Yes.
sensory formulas for your eyes, for your smell, for your taste.
Yep.
So no matter how prayed up you are sometimes, you smell a bag of Doritos opening, or you got a honey bun coming
Right.
out the microwave, or chunky monkey,
Yes.
no matter what, I keep reminding clients, you're not broken, you're not weak,
Mm.
you're not
Mhm. Mhm.
insufficient. That you're working
No.
against a powerhouse of these companies. They're not
Yeah.
being fair. They're not putting everything that's on the label. And white sugar
Mhm.
is actually, and there's so many studies out. It's just as and sometimes more addictive than crack cocaine, than heroin.
I
So
believe it.
it's so I want people to and as I got from you, have more grace in this
Mhm.
stage of your life. Have more grace and
Yeah.
talk to the people around you so we can have more grace. We can have
Yeah.
empathy. This is a stage in life that is a celebration because a lot of people don't make it to this far. They don't make it this far. They
Absolutely.
just don't. And when they do, some people who do make it, I work in a hospital, they have no control over their limbs. They have tubes
Mm.
going through them, and they or people have
Wow.
to care for them. So I
Mhm.
just, if you, and I know, ooh, time went by quick. Do you do you mind just sharing just a message for women who are in this stage, and then a quick message for the men in their lives and the children in their lives, and then I want to share some of the other stuff that you're working on, and we might have to do a part two because this was so good.
I
But
love it.
taking a minute or two just to send us off on that note.
I for the women, I really want to encourage them to be gentle with themselves because you a lot of times you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And if something feels off, we are really intuitive about being, you know, being persistent in that way. But what we do sometimes is self-diagnose. Don't do that
Mm.
because you can think that you are losing it or you can think it's dementia and it's not. I mean, like I said, the first thing is if you have missed that cycle, it's been a couple of months, check it out. If you find that all of a sudden, why am I sweating like this? I don't sweat. Or why all of a sudden am I waking up, even if it's once or twice, and you are having night sweats, check it out.
Okay.
If it seems to be that brain fog, or you are forgetful and that's not you,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden, check it out. Don't assume that it's dementia. Don't assume that you know what it is at all. Check
Yes.
it out. And I think that's the most important part, to go to the doctor and be persistent, because sometimes they don't always get it right the first time. Oh,
Wow.
you're too young, or this, or no, something is wrong. I know my body. I know what's going on, and this is not like me. And I've had to do that. You have to be your own advocate a lot of times. And so, for the women, do that, but also for your family members, have a conversation with them, and they will give you grace because they love you, but you have to have the conversation, because if you start acting just like out of the blue, and you were like this yesterday, and now all of a sudden you're, who is this person?
Yeah.
And you haven't had a conversation, that won't work. So it's important to bring everybody into the conversation. And like me, wait until you are calm and you're able to articulate it as best you can.
Wow. I'll say this, fellas, after speaking with this queen off the record about some of what we talked about and just what we talked about here on film, um, let's also not diagnose them. Let's not call names like you're bipolar and you're being, erratic, and you're being, this and you're being that. Let's also get to a point where we make it safe to have the conversation, because
Mhm.
just like we think we're going crazy because one day, you're happy, then the next day you're not, they also are dealing with this. So brothers, kings, prince, sons, let's get to a space where this is a community thing, and let's get to a place where we have more empathy, we have way more grace, but we're being gentlemen again. We're being gentlemen, and we're protecting the queen at all costs, and we're making her feel like this was something that is necessary and not a curse. This is a blessing to get to menopause. It's a blessing to get through menopause. And let's, as a community, let's do that. And men, also, you'll need to off the record have conversations with your sons and your daughters when mom is not.
Mm,
And even if you're not together, even if families have split up and you have your new family dynamic, it
mhm.
still doesn't negate your responsibility to protect the mother of your children because she's still a queen.
Wow.
Talk to the kids to the side, have that conversation with them, and have the understanding. Let's take the taboo out of menopause. Let's stop making it
Mhm.
seem like a dirty word. Let's stop making it seem like it's a curse, because it's really not. It's a natural part of life. Thank you for joining us today. This is
Thank you.
just cornered you. I mean, this was beautiful. I know you do your podcast. Thank you for sharing that. You also, I read through the grapevine, you have a gospel radio station, and you
Yes.
also are in the arts. Can you tell us, how can people get in touch with you? Uh, just if they want to ask questions, if they want to say thank you for what you shared today, how can they get in touch with you?
I have a radio station called Uncommon Gospel, and they can find me on uncommonmag.com. And everything is there. I have a podcast that I do. We have the Flow Therapy Morning Show that my husband and I do. But on that website, you can see everything there.
Okay.
And it's an outlet for me because I love the gospel. I grew up as a PK two times, mom and dad. So I absolutely love the gospel. I love sharing the good news, and that's why I think it's important, for us to know, because I can't bless you with this mouth and curse you at the same time.
Mhm. Right.
So I love Uncommon Gospel, but I also do a podcast called The Intentional Me. And it's just when I have something that I want to share,
Okay.
I put it out there in the atmosphere.
And this is all on that website, on
Yes.
okay, www.
Un
Uncommon
uncommonmag.com.
dot
And then Instagram, Uncommon Gospel.
Uncommon Gospel, UNCOMMON Gospel,
Mhm.
GOSPEL. and you can find it
Absolutely.
on Instagram. And we'll put it in the description for those who are listening to this on Spotify, iHeart, and Apple Podcast. You'll see it in your description. And for those who are watching this on YouTube, you will definitely see it in the description box as well. But again, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you. And remember, health is wealth, and we're just here to make sure y'all are getting paid. Until next time, yum on.
Thank you.